Welcome, you lot of Chattosaurus Rexes. I hope we're doing really well. It's Wednesday. It's the 7th of May. The year is flying fast. Before you know it, it'll be 2026 and we'll be winning another flag. I can't wait. But as usual, I have some ins and I have some outs. It isn't a Carlton show if we're not halfway through the season and we start dropping like flies. I have lost the great man, Nick Horsburgh from Horizon Finance, the sponsor of this show as well, incidentally. He is away. He is having a private concert from the living end. Just shows how the other half live. We're here talking Carlton and he's drinking beers and watching punk rock. And also Lek Dog. Lek Dog is out for a week, reason being cold. So, I mean, I don't even know where you go with that. But we send our well wishes to him. Just fucking put a rug on, mate. You'll be fine. But I have got committed people. I've got two absolute wastes of space. As always, I need spine. And one of my big new friends of this show, but an old friend of mine, a man that is articulate on and off this camera. He's got a big brain and a bigger heart. My friend, your friend, John O'Baruck. How you doing?
Evening, Pom. Evening, Ian. Evening, chat. It is. It's great to be here tonight. Big old day in Melbourne town, and Nick's off hearing some white noise at the pub. But we're here chatting through what we need to chat through, and yeah. Interesting times again. It is starting to get a bit cold. I was a bit under the weather early in the week, but we're through it now and ready to go again.
Yeah, you're a big, strong man, John. Or you're not going to bail just because you cough every 5 seconds. Do you know what I mean?
Big, strong boys. That's what we need.
There you are, Lek, eh? Just eat some vitamin C. You know what I mean? But
if Jason Tunstall can get on national TV wearing a blanket over his head and a blanket over his torso. And he's one of the biggest guys in football media. And if he can get on national TV wearing 3 blankets and just soldier on, come on, Lek Dog. Oh, if it's good enough for the Chief, it's good enough for you.
Looks like we got Pommy frozen, which is not ideal.
Oh, can you hear me?
He's unfrozen.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there. My screen went black and then came back. I was going to say, it was only a couple of weeks ago, like Lek Dog did this show in his pajamas. So maybe put clothes on. You won't get sick.
There's something in that.
And as always, I need another person. And he's a regular of this show, regular friend of mine. Nick wastes his money going to the living end, but we've got our own rock star. We've got our own wordsmith, our own hero on the guitar, Mr. Ian from Navy Blue Corner. How you doing, mate?
Mate, too kind. Doing very well, even though it was a very rough loss, a rough week. I feel like maybe Lek Dog's gotten scared off because he's thinking I might go unchanged in this, and he's unchanged lineup this week on the team selection again, and he just can't bear the thought of that. So I don't blame him. But no, it's going to be a very interesting show. Like it's that weird part where sometimes the content, which you never love as an actual fan, but sometimes the content is easier and potentially more entertaining after a big defeat. So at least maybe there is some sort of shining light to this where we can break it down, discuss how we can get out of this and fix it for this week.
Well, it was a tough week before we start. It was like, and chat, you let me know as well. Last week went as well as an Adam Brandt Melbourne re-election campaign. Hey. And obviously, that's clever. That's niche, that chat. You don't get politics banter from Pom very often. But obviously, are we concerned? I was watching Sam Doherty last night, and he filled me full of no confidence, really. John, I'll ask you first. Were you a little bit concerned about that we were kind of beyond kind of these performances?
It's interesting. Like, if you look at the performances thus far this year, and you can probably group them in a few different ways. They've all been, none of them have been particularly amazing, aside from maybe the Geelong one. But well, I don't think you're right in the sense that I thought we were beyond that, which is what we got on Saturday. But I think every team, just with the way that the competition is, every team's going to have a day like that this year when nothing you try is going to work, and just the opposition you're playing have an absolute day out. So the concerns are there. They're definitely there to know that we are still susceptible to those performances. Probably the most concerning part for me about Saturday was usually in those games you do have a patch for maybe 5-10 minutes where things go your way. That's about general in the modern game, the way that footy's gone, but we just didn't have that. And it's a credit to the Crows and credit to Matthew Nicks, who's probably akin to Freddie Kruger for Michael Voss, just in the way that he can't seem to crack him. But it's something that we're worried about. And we know with this season now, with the way that it's gone for Carlton, and you don't have to gloss over the start, just the way that all happened and the way that it slanted the season into view, where it's like, well, everything's a bit more doomy when it does happen. So you get a performance like Saturday and it's like, well, it just feels like you're deeper in the doldrums than you probably should be when, as I said, every team's going to have a performance like that throughout the year. So cause for concern, yes. Is there time to turn it around? Yes, but the runway is getting shorter and shorter.
It is. Are you concerned, Ian? And chat, are you concerned?
Very concerned. I mean, the result wasn't overly surprising, but it doesn't mean it's any, less disappointing when you kind of see it all happen. I think the big frustration clearly is the way we fluctuate our form and how quickly it happens. We go from the best performance of the season, massive win against Geelong, a really strong team, and then all of a sudden you see almost your worst performance for 4 quarters of the season. And it's not like it's a gradual thing for us. We never know what we're going to see with Carlton right now. And it's so hard to buy in, be confident, believe in anything when this is the reality of us right now. We're very yo-yo kind of team, and there's still some really good components to us, which is why I think you'll still see wins like that Geelong game throughout the season. And we're going to be a bit like, I think, Freo and a few of these other teams where you're going to get good wins, going to get poor losses and be scrapping for that spot in the 8. But there's just so many clear deficiencies that have been around for far too long, and we could probably spend 3 hours going through them. We can't kick in from kick-ins. We can't defend kick-ins. When teams start to spread and use the full width of the ground, we don't know how to defend it. Hawthorn and Adelaide do it so well against us. And yeah, when it's 4 years in with this Vossi kind of era and the same mistakes are there, we're losing to Adelaide in the same fashion every single year. Credit to them for being able to do it. But yeah, it is concerning right now when there's a lot of issues, no answers to those issues.
It is, yeah, and I think we've had a lot of them. I agree with Jono as well. The runway's getting shorter, and we've had a few false takeoffs, which did make me worry about last week. I've got to admit, I am probably more concerned now than I have been at any point of the season, if I'm going to be totally honest, because especially when I have Sam Doherty going on TV and saying maybe our preparation wasn't up to standard. And I'm like, Adelaide, I don't think have played differently at all season. So I'm not too sure. They only had to watch any game.
Well, they certainly set up differently. I mean, you flagged it and you absolutely nailed it in this show last week, Pommy, when you said Matt Crouch going out in their midfield is probably the best thing that could happen to it. And look what happened. Like Peatling went in there, Josh Rochelle went in there, and they just looked so dynamic. And then they they took away our biggest strength, which is win the ball at the source and work it out from there. And I underestimated how good Adelaide were at getting the ball from inside to outside. They do that better than any other team in the competition that I've seen so far this year. So when you make a change like that in the middle of the ground, it gives you an extra dimension. And I guess the other part of the concern for us is that we're coming into an area now where we've got an 8-week sample size. Teams, so after 8 weeks, you get to know what teams are good at, what teams are not good at, where you can get an advantage on teams and how you know that teams are going to play. People know now. It's like, well, if you can stop Carlton at the source, and it's been the same for years, if you can stop Carlton at the source, you can get their defense a little bit all at sea from early going in the game, you win the game.
Mate, the way to beat us is written in the twinkle stars, I'm afraid. And you know me, right? I looked at this team and I enjoy an axe. I honestly, I don't need a reason to have an axe, but a 60-point axe, 60-point loss. If I'm the selector, I'm not getting the axe. I'm getting the fucking Tommy gun out. That's what I'm getting. Someone has to go. Watch the VFL against Coburg. Now, I know the big concern I've seen from people is you can't make too many changes as a 4-day break, right? It's VFL, though. It's not even real football. VFL football is one grade up from when I play football in the back garden with my kids. So what I've done here is I've gone very, very bold. And I have brought in JSOS, obviously injured last week. I've brought in Boyd. I've brought in Binsey. And I've brought in Mr. Pitternet. And there is a typo. I kept Matty Carroll. That first Cowan, as I'll change it, is Matthew Carroll. Because I don't want to drop Matthew Carroll after one bad game. And that is something Carlton have done ever since I've got to this country. We put in a new kid, and then he's always the first punished player. And I don't think that's fair. But look, he was completely overawed last week, Matt Carroll. But so was Sam Doherty. So was Blake Acres. So was some of the more established names in this list. So I want to give this an opportunity for him to learn his football. Bounce back. Tell me what you learned from last week. Boyd, I thought of the idea of putting Doc at halfback, and honestly, I was like, why should I? Because last week I thought, I'm not pinning it on Doc, but him and Akers were nothing short of deplorable to me. And I'm going to forgive Akers because the week before against Geelong, we played him as the pure defensive winger, and he had an okay game. This week, for some reason, Ollie Hollands went back to halfback. Doc got the defensive wing, and Akers then got the attacking wing. And I was like, why have you changed? Like, it worked last week. Why would you change the most fundamental part to beat Adelaide is their spread? Why would you change what worked the week before in a game where these are the masters of width? And then Jackson Binns. I have been hard on Jackson Binns, but against Coburg, there was one man that was putting his hand up and saying, remember me? And I was incredibly impressed by everything he did. And there's still the deficiencies. The ball use at times can be absolutely banterville. But I will give him this. His 4-week block of work has progressively got better. They played him as the pure attacking winger against Coburg. He was very good. Boyd, he went to the high half-back role, and suddenly I was like, okay, that's where I'd play Doc. Boyd controlled the game. And Mark Pitternet, I think it's time that we start making TDK do something. Last week, I was disgusted with Tom de Koning's performance, and I was disgusted also with Michael Voss's coaching. He was getting battered. Change it up. Try and get him out of there. Get him working around the ground. So let's bring Pitternet in. He was incredible in the VFL, to be fair to him. It's the best game I've ever seen. 10 tackles, multiple clearances, hard work around the ground. Let's see how this can work, because if TDK is worth 1.7 million, he's not just a ruckman, he's something else. Let's force that against a team that backline is vulnerable. Let's have a look. That is the team, ladies and gentlemen. I will field questions from the established panel and you, chat.
It's interesting with Pitternet. Is that just Pommy, you always know I love a little bit of shenanigans and a little bit of a laugh, but is the Pitternet's inclusion also a bit of like, well, Saints fans, you want to see TDK up close? Well, we're going to bring in Pitternet to halve his impact?
Well, I mean, partly, but partly also, I felt like in the ideal world, if we're honest, I don't think TDK's ruck work has been very good this year at all. I think he's had his moments of being very good, but my issues are when he plays someone who's big, he gets into a wrestling contest, and I think Marshall has got the same issue as TDK. So I figured, let's see it. And there's also a part of me that listened to him last night on the radio, today on the radio, and him saying it's up to my agent more than it is me where I go. That Carlton needs to start thinking as well, long-term, what are we going to do? So without being harsh to him, Pitternet was arguably, in my opinion, the best player in the VFL, second to Boyd. You reward players that are playing well. And Pitternet had a good week the week before. This week, he's obviously improved on that craft around the ground. I want to see it. And I think you know what they're going to do, St Kilda. They're going to overrun our midfield. And Pitternet can negate that, in my opinion, better than TDK.
Yeah. It's interesting. I thought they would have bought in Pitternet last week because of what Riley O'Brien would have done to TDK, and he didn't have a great one, as you've alluded to there, Pom. So I thought that would have been the move, and there are going to be some games coming up, particularly in this next stretch, where we are going to need Pitternet. It's interesting. You mentioned St Kilda and their running. It's so this game's at the MCG, which is our home game, but St Kilda do run. They have the running power and capacity. Who's the one that you're looking to put the most time into, and who's got the important job on Wanganeen Malera?
For me, my issue with Wanganeen Malera is a little bit like the same issue with Jordan Dawson. If you get space, he's going to kill you. Under the cosh, he isn't. So by token there, Pitternet kind of negates the McRae influence here. McRae is the one who distributes them dimes. I want Pitternet to ruck 50% of the time to not have any loose ball. So I want to treat Pitternet this game as the stopper that Riley O'Brien was. Stop McRae. Stop Steele getting that handball away by you being a constant menace and being a blocker, being a body, and we'll handle them, because I feel like on paper, our team should batter St Kilda. So they're relying on Sinclair, Nass having really good games and getting their spread going. We should monster them when we should get first use every ruck contest, every stoppage. And ironically, last week, one of the stats that is incredibly damning, Carlton had the ball the same amount of times as Adelaide from stoppage and clearance, and they lost stoppage and clearance combined by nearly 60 points. There's the game. If you win the ball and you have it in your hands, it needs to go. Adelaide's plan was smart. Carlton's was foolish. So this week, you can have the ball as much as you want. You ain't getting it out to these guys.
I like it. Pommy, I do have a question. Firstly, I like the bin shout, because I've been similar to you, Pommy, where it feels like every week it's, where's Bins? Bring him in. And then you go, I've seen him in the twos, we're not bringing him in. But I feel like we're at a bit of a point at the moment where, particularly without a Cottrell, a Zach Williams, that high half forward, at least that mid-forward connection, some creator, someone who wants to take the game on and attack, we're kind of missing it. And I feel like it's at the point with Binns where it's just like, just see what he can do. When he's played at the level in small patches, it's looked okay. So what's the worst thing in seeing it for a game? And then we can make our minds up and move on. So credit for you for the Binns shout. But my question is around Jordan Boyd and Lockie Cowan. What was your thoughts on shifting Cowan out of this team and making Boyd the option instead?
Cowan, I liked bits of his game, I have to admit, against Adelaide when he slot in and replaced Haynes on the pine for a little bit when Haynes was on the rotation. That is where I see him, the modern day interceptor and long-term Haynes' replacement. I can see that's what I hope he becomes. For me, I can't. He's not ahead of Haynes. He's not ahead of McGovern. So Boyd, different type of player, smaller, more dynamic, a better kick. I need that control off halfback from someone. And the game I saw in the VFL this week from Boyd was better than Doc's game last week, which somehow got him in. All right, and Doc played a good quarter last week. Boyd's game, I thought he controlled the game brilliantly from start to finish. And for that, I want that in the seniors. Put him at halfback, not back pocket, and get him 20, 30 touches and say, get us out of the back half quickly, efficiently, because when we get hemmed in, we get battered.
Just the stat from the weekend. So we know that Adelaide took 23 or something marks inside 50 for the game, and at halftime, at quarter time, I think it was like 9-0. At halftime, Carlton probably only had like 2. Adelaide took something like 21 intercept marks for the game as well. And I reckon most of them would have been from Carlton's kickouts and rebound 50s and just getting chopped off on the wing on the Carlton defensive side of the wing. So our ball use coming out of defensive 50 on the weekend was atrocious. So if you bring someone like Boyd back in the side, who, as you said, Pom, and I watched the VFL closely as well, and I'll have some points to say when we get to my team just about that and why I haven't gone with a player that you've gone with. I wrote in my review on Gardner Stand about protecting the egg, and it's been an issue for Carlton a lot this year, just with the ball use and not taking care of the football. We didn't do that at all. I mean, Josh Worrell played a magnificent game. He had 9 intercept possessions on his own. Carlton as a team had 11 intercept marks collectively. It says quite a bit as to how you go. And like Paolo Sebastiani, shout out, mate, he talks a lot about defensive integrity and how much you can see for a team structuring up from the way that they defend, not just physically, but also mentally, but also in the way that you take care of the ball and look after it. I'm sure you guys are bigger soccer fans than I am, but I'm sure you must lose the plot where it's just like if there's willy-nilly passing and it's all sloppy and it's not clinical, not 1 or 2 touch, I'd imagine you get so frustrated at that and you'd be like, oh, they're not passing well. In footy, and particularly most likely in the modern game, when disposal efficiency and speed of ball movement are the hallmarks of what the modern game represents, and to be able to turn the ball over and just go and punish off turnover, that's where we constantly let ourselves down. And it was, aside from anything else that we got smacked in the middle and smacked at what we're good at, it was the biggest reason as to why we lost the game, because we just could not protect the footy.
very common thing with Carlton again this week: 21 touches versus 12 touches until you generate a shot at goal. Carlton are the number one side in the league for fannying about with it when it's hard. So we actually slow ourselves down. I don't even think the opposition does that. It's us. And the last 2 weeks, I said last week, big danger game last week. You were against the number one transition side in the league, and that is a big weak area if our forward pressure's rubbish. This week, you're playing the number one side. Only 2 sides haven't slowed their ball movement down against Ross the Boss. So that is Ross's number one game plan. It'll try and slow us down. And when it happens, we have no options ahead of the ball. And you see them long dump kicks, which you're talking about. Mitch McGovern's probably the number one offender in the back line. If there isn't a hit-up lead 20 metres in front of him.
Did he know where he was kicking the ball once on Saturday?
That's what he does. But that's what he does. It's almost like if he doesn't have that outlet, he's just hopefully... I mean, there was a few times he actually kicked it. I laughed in the live. Carlton set that little trap up on the left-hand side and he kicked to the right-hand side. And one of them times, poor Doc was on his own and Riley O'Brien happened to be there. And it was almost like, you could tell Doc was like, bro, taking piss. You know what I mean? Like, what? Why? Why did you do that? But that's what happens when Carlton slowed down. The whole system is built for a certain mechanic, and we don't have mechanic 2. So that's what I'm hoping to bring this week, because I would like to use TDK as that wing outlet ball so we can keep one of our forwards staying at home, which again, last week, I thought Carlton reacted to their good zonal system by moving both of our key forwards out of the 50, which then ultimately meant at times Durden was playing full forward. So that was nice. Just tried to help Voss out structurally. People have asked as well who my sub is controversial in this game. My sub is going to be Matthew Carroll. So I want him to come on a little bit later for one of the players that isn't performing. He can have half a game and I'll bring him on at half time. But I don't mind a type like Matt Carroll. I think it allows us an opportunity in this game to maybe sacrifice at all for a little bit more run and carry, because in this team, Cooper Lord is playing the Motlop role. If we want an extra midfielder, let's fucking use a midfielder.
Like
mental. Okay, well, there you are. Who's the 7th defender? Well, you'll notice I've got 6 there. And you also notice, because I brought Bins in, I've got an extra winger. So Elijah played a bit of wing last week. I don't want that ever again. Bins, Ollie, Akers is my wing rotation. And Ollie can do what Lockie Whitfield does. And as and when we rotate, he can go across half-back and protect Bins like he used to for Vic Metro in the glory years. But there you are. You're going to get from good to less outs. Mr. Ian, you only dropped 3 of these guys.
Yeah, I could have done a lot more damage. My issue is, and has been like this for a while, is I start with about 10 names of players I want out, and then I look to who I can potentially bring in, and I'm like, oh, it looks like you're all staying in, because I'll be honest, I don't see a lot that I'm liking that are currently available. But yeah, probably the easy one is if Jack Silvani is available, he comes in for Lewis Young. Lewis Young was fine. He is what he is, which is a perfectly good backup if there's an injury. But once our team is fit, he moves back to the 2s. And then, yeah, what can we do with this team? And I was trying to have a bit of a think. And I think one of the underrated issues right now is, and it's something we've struggled for years, which is that mid-forward connection. And I think our high half forwards aren't really there. And 2 of our better ones that are in control of a lot of our ball movement and kicks inside 50 are injured. We don't have Zach Williams. We don't have Matty Cottrell. Probably the only other player on our list who isn't in the team that can maybe play that role, Fantasia, also injured. So I think it's a big deficiency. So I was trying to think of what can I do to kind of fix this. And the biggest thing straight away was get Ollie Hollands back on a wing. Just get someone who wants to take the game on, who's aggressive, creative, We saw his run and carry against Collingwood when he streams through and kicks a couple of snags. I think that's an easy option. And then I went Cowan down back over a Boyd. There wasn't honestly a lot of thought between the two of them. One, I love Cowan a lot. And I just think if they're going to persist with McGovern as well, being this non-defensive attacking player, then I thought, well, okay, I'll bring in Cowan for a little bit more of that defensive first to allow Carroll, to allow McGovern be those ones to take the game on. Whereas I worry if we've got Boyd, McGovern, and Carroll, that's kind of three guys that aren't those defensive first kind of players. So that's what I did in the back line. And then, yeah, hard to bring many other players in. But I thought, yeah, Akers, I haven't loved his games the last few weeks. Yeah, Ollie Hollands goes to the wing. And then what does Carlton need? We've just had one of the worst losses, typical Carlton fashion. Here's a debutant. That'll get you up and excited. So Ben gets his debut this week. It just adds to this midfield, adds to another player that can rotate around in a few different positions. I do want more of a split between Cooper Lord and Ben in the midfield, which means Motlop, you're not in there. You are staying in that forward pocket. You do not move from that forward pocket. I thought if I just bring more players in, then therefore you can't make Motlop that midfielder. And then basically, Doc, I think he is where he is right now. If he wants to play, I think he's at halfback. I think we have better options. So then my sub becomes Lucas, which I think will be one great if you've got Ben debuting to get the brothers and twins together. But then looking at my team, because I've dropped a winger, I think Lucas coming on as the sub late. One, he's got a bit of pace. He's got a bit of spark. That forward half player, which we always need the sub to be, also allows maybe you can swing Walsh more into the midfield late if we want some more run closer around the ball. That's kind of my lever to pull. But yes, that is my team. Break it down if you want.
The camps, they're finally in there. Did you, I know you've been a big advocate of bins, right? You have been team bins at times, and I've been team no bins. And my wife will confirm it's bin night tonight, and it is my job to put the bins out, and I always conveniently forget. But did you watch why did you choose the campers over bins is my question, because I genuinely like bins this week purely on the account of I've been questioning, does he care? I thought he really did care. He really did try this week. It felt like to me he was sending me I took it personally watching the VFL. It felt like he was saying, I'll prove you wrong, you pommy cunt.
Yeah.
That's how I took it.
I like it. Look, the more I think about it, as soon as you had it, I was like, yeah, I would have liked to have seen Bins. And yeah, I've been very back and forth with that man. I was very high on him early. And then what I saw this preseason sort of made me go, okay, I don't even see you in the plans anymore. I just honestly kind of forgot about him. But I think this could be a decent little spell with a few of those front half players out to just say, mate, here's 2 weeks. Here's 2 to 3 weeks. Show us you have something, or you're probably done at the end of the season, because there's been so many little whispers you hear about his attitude and things like that. He wins so much footy in the twos, but they won't select him at some stage, particularly with how bad our VFL team is and the development. We've said that at length on this show. Is he one of those players that needs to be in the ones to perform and get that spark? Sometimes there's guys who in the VFL, they're not amazing. And then at AFL level, all of a sudden it just works. They're surrounded by better players. The system just suits them better. So the more I think about it, the more I kind of want to pivot and bring Bins into this team just to see what it looks like, as Lucas is going to be the future, hopefully. Bins is more, his career's kind of in balance right now. I think I went Lucas probably out of a trust and thinking for the future more than anything else right now. And then I liked maybe that little connection, Ben's first game. Why not let him do it with Lucas? So yeah, honestly, there wasn't too much in-depth thought between the two.
You went vibes, didn't you? You went vibes.
I did. Well, that's Carlton at the moment, mate. We just had our worst loss. You know they're going to do this. I'd be putting all my money on Ben to debut this week because they need that good news story. And they can't say TDK is re-signing because he's probably not going to. So Ben debut it is.
I can't believe I've created a show where we've become Carlton already. It's only taken 3 seasons. I can't believe it's infected the show. Mr. Jono, bring me out of this misery.
Bring you out of this misery. I'm trying to locate Jordan Boyd. I know it's been a bit of a Where's Wally type operation for Jordan Boyd and the Carlton senior team this year. But after Pommy's rap, and Pommy watches the VFL closer than almost anyone I know, saying that he's played really well, yet he's not there and Binns isn't here, and where's Boydie?
Yeah, look, I am probably number one in the Jordan Boyd fan club, have been for a very long time. And this is my team selection probably tells you what Pommy said before. Carlton have officially broken me because every single week, I reckon for the first 5 rounds, it was Boyd was first in. Got to the point where, well, if you're not going to pick him, why am I wasting my energy bringing this guy in? Clearly, he's not in your plans. And I feel like that's been the case at the moment. And yeah, I think I would like Boyd in. My reasoning, as I kind of mentioned before, was a little bit on, and maybe it doesn't work as well. I'm happy to go both ways with it because we're going those 4 talls, Wiedering, Sauce, Haynes, McGovern. So maybe you need someone a bit more nimble. But I just thought they're not playing McGovern in this intercepting role. They want him to be that, release him to just take the game on and use your kicking, which is meant to be a strength. Wasn't last week, but that's meant to be something to set us up. Matt Carroll, they want him taking the game on as well. I worry if we throw in a Boyd as well. That's just 3 guys. Ansard as well. That's 4 attacking first players that aren't necessarily known for their defensive side of the game. Is that too many? Maybe it complements the 4 talls, but I just thought Cowan maybe balances that a little bit more and allows, because he can kind of do both. If I'm Pommy's number 1 for Cowan, I'm number 2. I think he's that guy in the team that can do both. He can intercept, he can lock down, he can be that attacking player, which just allows a bit more versatility from the others. So yeah, Boydie definitely stiff, and I see him hopefully in those next few weeks. Maybe at some stage Carroll comes out just to get a bit of a rest rather than dropping him. But I just think Cowan allows a bit more balance for me right now.
And you said, just confirming, you said Lucas was your sub.
Yeah, Lucas is a sub just to get a bit of a spark. I'm sick of this weird sub. Why is Cowan the sub? That makes no sense to me. I don't like a big body midfielder. And Campo or Binns are kind of those last few speedy type players that I think can have a bit of an impact. And then it allows a guy like Sammy Walsh to maybe move back into the midfield, or maybe you can move some other magnets around by having a guy locked onto that wing, which I do like.
Interesting.
Starting to think Ian is actually on the selection team because he refused to make any changes a couple of weeks ago, which is a Voss mantra. Where we're now doing the dream debutant vibes. I'm
getting brainwashed by me. Help me. Someone needs to strap me down to the chair, get the full eyes open, and get me out of this, Pommy.
Harry Charlson will be in next week, Pom.
mate, I'm very worried that we have a mole.
I'm starting to think we need to re-sign Brad Lloyd. Anyone else getting that vibe as well? I think he's doing a great job.
Oh my God. We've been infiltrated. The independence of this show has been questioned.
I'll go back to the soccer meme. There's one thing I have done over the past 12 months is that I've introduced my mum, and she knows. I love my mum more than anything. She knows very little about the round ball game, but over the last 12 months, I've introduced her to the Jose Mourinho meme of "If I speak, I am in trouble."
Yeah,
and that is an appropriate time to bring it out when you mention that bloke's name you mentioned before.
Anyway, it was a big shout out to Matt. That is an elite comment, by the way.
I can't wait. I can't wait for him to break. We're doing a special bobblehead. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, depending on how we go on Friday night, bobbleheads might find their way into the team. Yeah. W girls return to preseason training, so there might be a couple of them putting their hands up too. See how we go. Anyway, so my team, I've gone just 2 changes. So I've gone Lewis Young out for Sauce, speaks for itself, and I have brought in Jordan Boyd for Sam Doherty. Again, also kind of speaks for itself. I thought Doc probably deserved to come back in after his VFL game, and once there was a spot opened up with Williams going out, it was like, well, like for like-ish, next best in, come in, just see how you want. And I think everyone had a bit of an off day, and even he said last night in amongst that AFL 360 interview that he can probably see where things are going for him. He knows that he's in a bit of a battle right now for everything, which is, it's not a fun place to be when you've got your football mortality pretty much smashing you in the face, and you're being reminded of it by 96,000 members every single week that you're not up to it. And look, I'm sure it's not in Doc's character to go and whinge away or just say like, play me or I'm gonna retire. He'll go back to the 2s again if he has to, like we're fully expecting him to do this week, and then his way back in. I'm bringing in Jordan Boyd as Pom said. I watched that VFL game quite closely actually, and I was very impressed with his performance. He ran the game up half back. He was kicking, and I mentioned protecting the egg before and the way that we didn't use the ball against the Crows. Well, you want to try and get a team in where what's Carlton not really had a lot of really... Sorry, I jumbled my words. What have Carlton not had a lot of in their teams recently? Really, really good kicks. So if you can load up your half back line and your half forward line with great kickers of the ball, almost halfway there. So Boyd comes in, rotate with Matt Carroll off the half back line, be the kickers, be the ones that use the ball. Pommy, you mentioned Jackson Binns before and how this is now a month of really good footy for him. I desperately wanted to pick him this week. I put a tweet out before the VFL game on Garden Stand saying there is a spot for Jackson Binns in this team if he is good enough. What I saw on Sunday is got about 80% of it, but it's the 20% of it that's really letting him down that he doesn't have, and that is the decision making, it's the ball use, and I'm still not quite seeing it. Akers had a stinker on the weekend and is very close to going out. I put in my review that he desperately needs a lift. He hasn't had a great season at all, but I said I really wanted to see it from Jackson Binns, and I'll say it again, I want him to make it as an AFL player. I'm in his corner. Can definitely see something there, but I'm just not seeing it at the moment. And maybe it is time to give him a run and just see what he can do, particularly now with the opportunity there and the vacancy there with Matt Cottrell out. But with the Cottrell vacancy, and there's one person I want to speak about, and that is Ollie Holland. So he's kind of shifted around all over the place on that outer side. He's started at half back, has gone up to a wing. And I'm thinking, well, we need someone to fill the Matt Cottrell role now for about 4 or 5 weeks while he's going to be out with an injury. You're looking for someone who can run 2 ways, who can kick the ball, who can move at speed and deliver inside 50. Why not try Ollie in that role? Halfback hasn't worked. They clearly are reticent to use him on the wing, which is his natural position, which, your mind boggles as to why you don't want to actually play a player in their natural position where they're good at. So this way, he's still pushing up onto the wing, which is good at, but you're giving him a defined role, and you know he'll have the tank to be able to go up and back and up and back and be able to run both ways. He's playing a defensive winger, is playing an attacking wing role, so it allows him to get forward, and that's when he really is playing his best footy, when he is playing that go-ahead footy and using the ball and trying to get ahead. And this way as well, if he does turn the ball over, he's not turning the ball over in a vulnerable position. So that's my thinking behind that. I'll answer any questions that you guys have.
Would you say, just on Jackson Binns, and I see you've got Ollie Hollands on that half-forward role. When he was a junior, Binns was more of that. It's fascinating because there's loads of footage of Binns and Hollands playing in the same Vic side together. And Ollie Hollands, when he did an interview with me on the draft, Binns was heavily talked about by Ollie, saying the most underrated footballer. No one's talking about him. Get him on the show. And is that a position, do you think, that Voss seems to be trying to find someone? He really enjoys Zach Williams playing that like hybrid half-forward role. Is that something that maybe Binns could do if he got more of an opportunity? Because he was sensational for juniors playing at half-forward, then going back on the wing when Ollie rested. Is that something that you could see long-term, maybe an opening for him?
Certainly an opening, particularly now with the unavailability in that part of the ground, which Ian has mentioned. Like all of the guys that you'd want kicking the ball inside 50, there's probably only one there, and is named on the other half-forward flank. And even he had a poor game on the weekend along with everyone else. So there's certainly the opportunity there. But again, it's what do you want from your wingers? What do you want from your half-forwards, Pom? You want players who can motor both ways. Okay, Jackson Binns can do that and can do that pretty well. You want people who can find the footy. Yep, Jackson Binns can do that well. And you need people who can use the footy. And at the moment, Binns is not doing that part quite well. So old mate Meatloaf says 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Well, you need everything to play AFL footy, don't you?
I agree. I agree. I mean, yeah, it's fascinating because we covered it on the VFL wrap this week that even in VFL, it seems to be obvious our wingers don't play a proper wing role. They still get quite a lot of contested ball, which makes no sense because I'll always use that stat. When we played Sydney, Chad Warner had a lower contested possession rate playing on the ball than our wingers had all year.
Well, how did Adelaide cut us up on the weekend? Uncontested possession absolutely was our kryptonite.
And that seems to be a Voss mantra. That, I mean, it's happened enough now for us to kind of make an educated guess that that's maybe the system.
Yeah. Not
them.
No. And that's Carlton's lot, right? That's the way if we've seen anything over the last 4 years, is that we know how Vossi's going to set up his side. It's the way that he's got his list. And okay, fair enough. Maybe he's set the team up to play in a way that he has wanted to build this list as. I'm not gonna listen to anyone to say it's just like, oh well, he's only working with the players that he's got. You will not find a single coach in the league that isn't talking with their list manager to say, these are the types of players that I want to play this type of football. If they're not communicating, then you have a lot bigger problems at play. So this is the type of footy that Vossi plays, and we've all screamed at him to make some tweaks. He has made some tweaks. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you get completely worked out like it was on the weekend. But this is the way it is. I think coming up against St Kilda, especially after watching what they did to Freo with bringing their half-forward flanks up to the stoppage to really crowd it in there, I think that genuinely suits us because we'd like to get the ball, win it at the stoppage, and just try bash our way through that. And then if you can get through that, well, all of a sudden you've got the outnumber. And then it's all about using the ball and making sure that you can get the mismatch. What will it be? It will be Wilkie will probably go to Charlie Curnow. Josh Battle's not down there anymore. Dougal Howard probably takes Harry Mackay. And then it's just the matter of, well, how are you going to structure up the rest of that forward line? And who's actually going to be down there that can take a catch and kick cleanly?
Just quietly, I did call that's why Lekdog is not here, because he was very worried that I wasn't going to make any changes. That is why I said that. No, I did make a couple this week, Lekdog. You should have joined the show. You didn't have to be so worried about it.
Yeah. You know what? While we're talking about like kicking efficiency, interesting little stat here. We'll play a little game with the chat, right? Who do we think in our team is the quickest to make a mistake statistically? So who needs the least disposals before a turnover? Who do we think it is? Who's played more than 3 games?
Has Doc played 3?
Sam Dockety's played 6 this year.
6.
Oh, he would, I think, yeah. But he would come to mind. Maybe him or Akers.
I reckon I've got it.
Go on.
I think I'm wrong.
I think it's McGovern.
Ooh, well.
Oh, is it TDK?
No, so Brodie Kemp, before he went down, he averaged a turnover every 2.9 times he touched the ball, right? Which is considered shocking by AFL standards. Matthew Carroll turns the ball over, only 3 touches, 3.7 touches till a turnover. Then it's Blake, then it's Curnow, then it's Motlop, then it's Lewis Young. Then, unfortunately, it was Lucas Camporelli. Then it was Doc, Harry, Mitch, Elijah, Matthew Cottrell, Jack Silvani, Tom de Koning, Zach Williams, Fogarty, Nick Haynes. And then the guy that gets a lot of abuse, I always have to stick up for him here, Ollie Hollands features on our list. He is 19th from worst. He averages a turnover every 6.5 times. The only players being worse than him are players with bigger contested possession rates, such as George Hewitt, obviously Adam Chera, Sam Walsh, Cooper Lord, Cripps. Sard has one of the best ball retention rates in the league. And then the best of the best, Will White, 8 touches before he turns the ball over.
Jeff.
It is always interesting as well, that stat, because sometimes it can be slightly flawed in the sense of if someone's one role is literally to take the game on and try to bite off those ridiculous kicks, then it can be slightly weighted poorly for them. But yeah, interesting that it was Kempy as the one. I would never have picked that ever.
I think surprising is what TDK where he is. I would have thought he would have been a lot lower just in terms of ball retention. He hasn't kicked very well. Just quickly before we move on, my sub, I know he's named on the field, but Jesse Motlop is my sub, and this is what I'm going to call a Pom. Do you remember the days back before the sub was the tactical sub, and it was the medical sub, and it was considered a soft dropping?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is a soft dropping for Jesse Motlop. So he is officially on watch. And hopefully...
It's interesting because as a midfielder, if you just isolate his stats per minute, he is actually ranked last round and the round before the worst midfielder in the comp. If you isolate it.
That is not surprising at all. But when I'm injecting him into the game halfway through the third quarter, I'm injecting him into the game and I'm putting him straight in the centre bounce. Don't inject him into the game and put him straight forward. Say, go get involved straight away and make your presence felt.
Before we move on to team selection, I'd love your opinions and chat's opinions. What do we think is Motlop? Like, what do we what can anyone work out why? Like, what have they seen to play that role? Because that is a role. Francis Evans plays the role in VFL, so it's obvious Voss wants a diminutive midfielder, and I think it's Jagger Smith. But what do you think someone has seen in Motlop that says this could work?
I think they've done it his whole time. I remember when he was drafted, there was big raps from like Luke Power and a few others saying, oh, this guy's got a bit of a tank. We can see him going into the midfield. So I feel like it's been something they've earmarked for a while. And it might just come down to the fact that we don't have that burst player, that speedy outside could literally break lines from the midfield. And we know it's a deficiency. We don't have anyone else clearly on the list with that skill set. And they're probably just shoehorning, I guess, Motlop into that because they know it's such a flaw for us and hoping it goes well. I don't see it personally. Like, I don't mind that they've tried it, but when it's clearly not working, surely you just say, we're missing so much from you in your forward craft. We need you down there. But yeah, it's an interesting one.
Jono, please tell me you've seen something.
I haven't seen anything. It's just trying to deal with crap. But it's interesting, right? So I'm trying to think about what you've said about Motlop and how I want him involved in the game. Like, I think I can see a player there who's still not quite getting it. And I keep banging on about the fact that in particularly AFL football, it usually takes about 50 games until you know what you're doing. There's a few players that have come around and they're completely out of the box. You know, Nick Dacos, Sam Darcy, Bailey Smith, Sam Walsh. Like, you know exactly what they are as soon as they hit the league. Whereas with Motlop, we're still trying to work out something. Might not be a little bit zippy, but he is certainly that fleet of foot. That's probably why we're seeing him in the midfield a lot more this year, as to why he's getting those centre bounces. He's certainly getting Jagger Smith's centre bounces. But it's interesting. So I think my plan with him, and remains to be seen if he actually does hold his spot this week, but if I'm picking the team and I've got him in as the sub, and when I am injecting him, I'm saying you're going on as part of this midfield rotation, okay? We want you to work. We know you can be there. You're on as part of the midfield rotation, but make sure you are at every single flipping forward stoppage that we have and just get on the move. Get on the move. Use that pace that we think you have and just try to get something done.
In talking about this, I just remembered him not winning a foot race against, I think it was Worrell. So he should probably be dropped just for that in my team. Can I get a redo?
Yeah. You know what? I'm just actually going through some of my draft notes on Jesse Motlop, and I'll just read you this. So this comes from his South Fremantle coach, right? The senior coach at the Waffle. And I'll just read you this little bit, right? Moving forward with Jesse, I can see him having quite a long AFL career. He's an incredible athletic player, and his greatest attribute was showcased this year in the WA National Combine, having an 8-second agility time. I wouldn't be surprised to see him starting his career as a creative halfback. He has the incredible smarts, the skills, and the evasion to really make this work. Not only that, but he's incredibly competitive. He isn't afraid to mix it with the senior players in training and in game, despite size and age deficiencies. I feel like he will bound on to the next level and loves the physicality. He might lack the strength at this stage, but we only have to look at Indigenous players like Anthony McDonald Tipperwoody, who didn't come in very quick and didn't come in very big, but used their evasion and quickness and added the size down the track. He's one of these players that has the beautiful ability that touches don't count because you just notice the impact from what he does.
Interesting.
And it's fascinating that you would, if you read that about Motlop now, you would call him a fucking liar.
I think my notes were very basic and just like, if you want a small forward, that's what you're getting. He isn't anything else. He's just your prototypical magic moment small forward. So yeah,
you see, I think this is the best comment I've ever seen. It's an almost
player
game.
Stevens nailed it.
Because I said this last week and people have bullied me on the rating show, but I said I'm not giving up on Motlop yet because he's kind of there. It's just the application's dog shit, but he's in the right places. And I foolishly said this week he's going to play with a small forward that does the almost in Isaac Rankine. And what did Isaac Rankine do? Absolutely tore us apart.
Ripped him a new one.
Yeah, and I was like, so it's a great lesson for him to watch the game, watch the best, do it.
Are we giving him, is it a disservice that he probably hasn't even trained in this role over pre-season and now he's never really played it? He's always been a small forward and now we're making him do this and we're seeing him not play some amazing footy. Like, is that a surprise?
The last thing I'll say about Jessica, I don't want to bag him, but for me, you don't learn the game in AFL. We have VFL for a reason. So I throw this at the club. If you wanted him to be a wing midfielder, we have VFL for a reason. Put him there. Give him 3 games as the pure on baller. Like, piss off Will Hayes, piss off the other Muppets, Ramshaw, and say Motlop is the main man for 2 weeks. He's going to get 40 touches. He's going to be Jack McRae of the VFL. And then when he comes into the seniors, he's mastered the craft, as opposed to going, oh, by the way, Jess, this week, mate, we want you to be Isaac Rankine, but they've put 2 years into it. Any danger of you working it out on the fly, brother? But I mean, I'm just a Pom. Do you know what I mean? What do I know? But I mean, personally, that's how I would have done it. But maybe I've just made it too simple. My wife tells me sometimes I simplify stuff too because people aren't smart. But there it is. Well, we're going to pick this team, chat. We're going to pick this team because I love you guys. Because you are the chat and you've been very, very good, right? You have 3 selections and we have 3 selections. So because the other guys just evidently don't care anymore, that's where we are. So, Jono, we need a backman. Who are you picking to play the Saints?
I'm picking Adam Sard.
Adam Sard. Da, da, da,
La,
da,
la, la, la. What happened on Saturday night, Ian? Were the Reds just still drunk, or?
Oh, who cares, mate? It doesn't matter. They are flying. We could lose every game from here, and I couldn't give a shit, to be honest. 100%. They didn't give a toss about that game at all.
False sense of security for Chelsea.
Just the fact I get to see Arteta and Arsenal give us a guard of honour makes me happy.
It's all right, innit? We've got Atletico Bilbao, though. That's all we care about, really. Ian, who you saving?
I feel like I've saved him in the backline every single week. Even when he was playing poorly, and now he's actually in some form. So it feels good to get my man Nick Haynes in this team.
Hainsley, the Haynes dog. You know what? Come back, Jordan. Boy, he's back in my team. He's back in the team. Very good weekend. Chat, I need defenders. I need 3 names from you, right? 3 names. You've got Akers, the Camporelli boys, Binns, Carroll, Chera, Cowan, Cripps, Kerno, Durden, the Hollandses, Fogarty, Hewitt, J Sauce, Lord, McGovern, Mackay, Motlop, Pitternet, TDK, Walsh, Waitering, which sounds like some kind of fish. White or young?
Jacob Waitering would be a halibut.
Rex
Hunt. If he was a fish.
I think I watched too much Rex Hunt. So Wheaters and Silvani look locked in. Gov, getting a bit of love. Maz, okay, so McGovern's got a lot of love. There we are. It looks like it's Gov. Okay, chat. So far, so good. So JSauce returns. I like the way that no one has banked on JSauce not being fit.
The fact he played with it for pretty much 4 quarters before gives me the confidence he can go in there and do it again.
JSauce will be playing on Friday night. Bookmark it.
Nah. Can I just say there was someone on Twitter the other day bagging JSauce going, how can Thilthorpe play? If you have ever said that, can you please try and work out the difference between a hairline fracture, which is what Thilthorpe had, right? Which is basically a scab of the bone. Even though it went through his skin, remember your hand bones are tiny, tiny fragments of bones versus a compound fracture. One fucking hurts and the other one, if to put the story in perspective, my eldest son had a hairline fracture of his toe, and I told him to toughen up for at least 2 hours, right? Before eventually mum took him to the doctors, and the doctor was like, it's a hairline, he's totally fine. Put a splint on it. And he'd actually forgotten about it by the time mum got home. So there you are. So genuinely, I would have said Will Thilthorpe was a joke if he didn't play the game. Compound hurts. I've compounded fractured bones before. Midfield. Jono.
Midfield. We've got to go Georgie boy.
His first, I won't say bad game, but his first quiet game.
Yeah. He's still got votes.
Yeah. Yeah, he would have got votes.
Pretty much.
By default, yeah.
It was his first below his standard game this year.
Yeah. Did you struggle? Did you struggle, Ian, to give out 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 for that game? Did you go 5 crypts and
see? Lucky we only do 3 on the podcast, and the 2 votes goes to the person that went above what you expect of them. It's not even like a real vote, so it made it a little bit easier. Nick Haynes, my man, managed to snag the 2, Cripper the 3, and then Georgie boy got the 1. If it was more than that, votes are off that week.
I gave Cripps the 5, I gave Haynes the 4, and then the other 3 was like, "Jeez, this is like panning." It's like
we've actually split them just between Cripps and Haynes in this one.
Yeah, it was like panning for gold in a like non-filled river in Sovereign Hill.
Horrific. Who am I saving? Oh, this is rough. It's a good area. Though, I'm going to go Ollie Hollins on the wing, just as a statement to say he's playing there, not in the back line.
This is probably like the hardest one because I feel like the midfield and ruck have got no abuse this week. And I feel like they were deplorable. All 5 of them, apart from Cripps' 2 goals, I'd say they were deplorable. So I really don't like anyone at this stage. But the best of the bunch was Cripper, so I'll save Cripps. But all their names make me feel physically, internally sick after last week. Chat, I need 3 midfielders. You need a winger, you need a ruck, and you need a midfielder to go. Pom, speak English. And you need a follower. There we are. Right. Akers, the Camparellis, Binns, Carroll, Chera, Cowan, Kerner, Durden, 1 Elijah Hollins, Fogarty, Lord, Mackay, Motlop, Pitternet, TDK, Walsh, White, Young. Motlop Brook. Hey, Matt, it's only a matter of time, babe. Do you know what I mean? Liam Ryan, wouldn't mind a bit of Liam Ryan, Zonk Steel, mate. I like a little bit of flying Ryan, but we'd probably turn him into an on-baller. So always a risk. Motlop, Lord, TDK. So Motlop, I don't know if you're doing it to wind me up, chat, putting Motlop in. Fair play. Motlop, Chera Walsh, Ben Campo, TDK, Chera Walsh, Motlop, Campo, Cripps, Chera. So TDK is definitely in. Walsh is definitely in. I think it's Chera.
Looks that way.
Yeah, I think
well done, chat. He was actually really disappointing this weekend, Chera.
Oh, wasn't
Yeah, well, you
Really
get off at the tribunal and you play like a busted ass the week after.
It's a curse. We've never won after winning on the tribunal the week after. It's another bobblehead curse.
Maybe it's Terry's fault for doing watch-alongs for the tribunal. Change it up. Forwards. Mr. Jono.
I don't know why this is too fucking hard. Charlie Curnow, just make it easy.
We're really making the watchers here have to do all the heavy lifting, and I'm loving it. I'm going to go for pretty much just one of my favorites. Let's get Will White in there.
Yeah.
Mate, one bit of happiness so far this year has been the White Dog. You know what? Lidge, he had a very maybe game at the weekend as well. A maybe game. That's me
He's
being
an
polite.
MCG player.
It's me being polite as well, because I want to say it's just shit it was, but
hard when the ball doesn't leave the halfway mark.
Yeah, and you're living at halfback, but you are actually playing half forward. That's how much we're hemmed in. Chat, we need forward line. So we need literally the full forward line. The full forward line. So we've got Akers, we've got the Camporellis, you've got Binns, you've got Carroll, you've got Cowan, you've got Durden, you've got Fogarty, you've got Lord, you've got Kai, you've got Motlop, you've got Pitternet, and you've got Young. Do we go tall? Chat.
Looks like Harry's a lock.
George has dropped Kerner.
Jesus Christ, George.
Oh,
George.
no.
Harry Mackay was doing Zumba at the weekend. I didn't know if I was watching one of Anthony Kudafidi's fitness classes. He was that bad.
Yeah, poor Harry didn't get near it.
It wasn't good. It was not good.
Looks like it's Dirds, Fogs, and H.
Nice and simple. Chat's killing
it.
Chat, you didn't go sexy. I'll rate it. There we are. So now we're on the Pommyinoz Rex. Who we taking, Jono?
I'm gonna take Matthew Carroll.
Oh, Carroll.
Yeah, that was going to be my pick, which makes this decision harder. But I'm going to potentially do something I've never done before, which is save someone who I didn't have in my own team. Pommy's convinced me. Give me Jackson Binns.
Hey,
look, that's it. Look at that, the Binns dog. The Binns dog. Who am I saving? Ollie Hollands and Walsh on the wing. Binns comes in. You know what? I want to see a full game from this guy, but preferably not as a half forward, as the position God gave him the skills to play, and that is Cooper Lord. I feel like this is the midfield to play it against as well, because half of their midfielders are children. So, chat, I need 2 names from you. One of them will potentially be the sub, but you've got Akers, the Camporellis, Mukau, Motlop, Pitternet, and Young.
This is going to be very interesting.
This will be interesting.
You've effectively made 3 changes, and it's up to you. You decide.
Pito's getting some love early.
You know what? I'm glad Pitternet's getting some love, because honestly, the 3 players actually that really impressed me this week in VFL was Boyd, Binns, and Pitternet. Like, there were 3 guys and that's my bugbear all year. I've watched the VFL and it's like no fucker wants to play seniors. I actually felt this week everyone wanted to play seniors,
which is what you want for once.
Yeah, that's what you want.
It looks like Pitternet is in.
Pito's in. Cowan looks like he's in.
Looks like I think
close.
Cowan's just got. I feel like Cowan's just got up over
Yeah.
Motlop, but Motlop's getting some late love, chat. But looks like jury decision.
Yeah.
Looks like it's Pittener, and it looks like it's Cowan.
Hey. So what's that? That is Motlop, Young, Doherty, and
Doherty
Akers out.
Acres.
Yeah. Motlop, Young, Doherty, Akers out for Sauce, Boyd, Bins, and Pittener.
Pitt.
Big Brad.
Oh yeah, look, the
Let's
names
do
in
it.
red. The names in red are the bad boys, and the names in blue are the good boys. So, yeah, tell you what, chat, you've swung the axe. That's what I want. Do you know what I mean? That's what I want. Fucking let them know. Akers not good enough. Doherty not good enough. Motlop and Young, sort your lives out. Love it. That's what I'm on about. Right. Big news now, though. Jono, the Gardner stand. If the ladies and gentlemen, the esteemed members of this selection panel, actually pull their finger out, go on the website I'm about to drop, what will happen?
So the first thing that will happen on their website is they will get a call to action to put in your email address. And what happens when you put in your email address? It means that everything that gets posted on the garden stand will get sent straight to your inbox. It's that easy. You don't have to go keep searching back on social media, although you can find us on social media. Everything that we post will arrive in your inbox to your convenience and be there for you. There are a couple of different tiers. There is plenty of free content. There is a lot of paid content there as well, so like our previews and our reviews from the game. But there is plenty of stuff online for everyone. It's only about $10 a month if you do want to subscribe. If you do want to pay, if you do want to subscribe to get access to everything, I will love you. If you don't want to pay and you want all the free stuff, I'll still love you. That's okay. But that's what we've got. We posted our Geelong review today. We'll have a preview of the Saints game coming up before Friday, I'm fairly sure, and then we'll get into reviewing, and then we're a third of the way through the season already, so it is flying by, but that's what we've got coming up this week.
Loads to come, do you know what I mean? And no false promises, not like the Green Party promising free dental because they'll never get in. Ian, Navy Blue Corner, all your links are in there, Twitter and YouTube. If the ladies and gentlemen of the chat go and find out what you're up to this week, they shall see.
Oh, mate. Well, we've got our big review preview episode that I recorded just before jumping on the team selection show here. So pretty much tonight in podcast form at some stage, once it's edited and uploaded, if you're a late night, like to stay up and need something to do, the podcast will be there in podcast form to listen to, or early morning, whenever, but in video form on YouTube, probably about 10 a.m. tomorrow to hear our thoughts. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to get them done on the weekends because Lockie is in the UK and I've weirdly been busy for the first time in my life. So we've been doing these nice little midweek shows, which is maybe allows a bit more calm perspective on some of the big results that have happened. So yeah, follow Navy Blue Corner or get us on YouTube. And tomorrow morning, you'll be getting a lovely little episode to watch and listen to.
Make sure you get around it. Chat, what have I got ready for you this week? I have got loads. Make sure you watch the VFL wrap. That is up there now. We also did a Willie Violi video, which if you do want to comment on, can we try and keep it respectful? I know it's a heated subject, but I've had a couple of YouTube reports already because some people have got a little bit uncontrollable in the comment section, and I expect a little bit better review. I know it's an emotive subject. Coming up this week, we've got my tips tomorrow. We've got the preview. We've got another funky AFL themed video about the mid-season draft, and I have found a player that I think 3 teams will be hungry to add, particularly if they're a team that plays a small forward as a midfielder who has got a bit of pace and dash. one to look out for. Make sure you like and subscribe. Head on over to the Pommyinoz website as well. These are now all live, along with a load of designs Mrs. Pom has put up there. So make sure you check them out. We'll see you next week with a full team, hopefully on the back of a 4-pointer against these dickheads, St Kilda. Look after yourselves, everyone. Be safe. Have fun. See you next week. The team is out.
Go Blues.
Go Blues.
Blues.